Hi guys. Okay, we are now going to go over two other types of factoring. One is factoring by grouping, and the other is factoring with a leading coefficient other than 1. Okay, so you can always tell a factoring by grouping problem by looking at it because it usually has more than 3 terms. In fact, there usually is 4. Okay. So when we do this, just to take you guys through this, is the first thing I do is I group the first two and the second two terms together. Okay, thus the name factoring by grouping. And then from each one of these, I take out the greatest common factor. So here I see that both of these are divisible by 3 and that there's an x in each one and the lowest exponent is 2. So I'm going to divide every term, these two terms, by 3x squared. So what I end up getting is x plus 5. Now, what I'm going to do here is take out another greatest common factor, but what I want to have left over is the same thing I have here. So if I divided both these two terms by -2, I would get x plus 5. So when I do this, it works out really nicely because what happens is this is one of my factors, and then the combination of these two terms is my other factor. So it ends up being 3x squared minus 2 times x plus 5. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, so we have 2 here and 2 here. All right, now if I look at 8 and 12, I know that they're both divisible by 4. And they both have an x in them, and the lowest exponent is 1. So I'm going to divide both of these by 4x. By doing so, I get 2x plus 3. Now here, I need to take out something that as well, and it looks like the only thing in common is this y. So I get y, and then I get 2x plus 3. And if you notice right here, these two are exactly the same, so that's what I'm after. So I get 4x, plus y times 2x plus 3. Okay? Now, let's look at the next two. All right, we're only going to do a couple of these because when we go into factoring with the leading coefficient other than 0, we're going to be using factoring again. So if I group these two together and these two together, I can see that I can take out an x squared out of both of these terms. So this ends up being x squared times x plus 2. Now if I look here, I see that both of these are negative, and I want to get a positive x and a positive 2. So if I took out a -5, I get an x plus 2 as well. So this factors out to x squared minus 5 times x plus 2. Okay? Let's try these two right here. These are both divisible by x cubed. So this ends up being x plus 4. And then if I took out a 2, I get x plus 4 as well. So they end up being factored as x cubed plus 2 times x plus 4. Okay? So hopefully not too terribly difficult. I'm going to hold off on doing any more. We're going to go right into factoring with a leading term coefficient other than 1, just because those are pretty darn complicated. Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to use the same processes that I've been using. Like I'm going to use my X puzzle, and I'm going to make it into a factoring by grouping problem. What happens is I'm going to split this term up into two separate terms so that I can factor by grouping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this number, this leading coefficient, by the constant, and that is 2. So using my X puzzle, I say, okay, what two numbers will multiply by this product and also add up to this middle term? And that is 2 and 3. So what happens is this middle term, instead of these being factors, this actually splits this middle term up into two numbers, 2x and 3x, right? And then I bring this guy down, so I have 2x squared plus 2. And then this one ends up being plus 3. Okay? So now I have 4 terms. I group these two together, and I get 2x times x plus 1 plus 3 times x plus 1. And then I end up with two factors, which works out really great. So I have 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. All right? Now, let's try the next one. Take this leading coefficient and multiply it by the constant, and I get 30. So I say, okay, what two numbers multiply to 30 and add to this negative 17? Okay, so because this is negative and this is positive, I'm going to have two negatives. And if I can look here, I see that that would be negative 15 and negative 2. So this turns into negative 15m and negative 2m. And then I carry these guys out, 5m squared, and then this guy ends up being plus 6. So now that I've done that, I factor by grouping. I factor out a 5m for the first group, so that's 5m, times m minus 3. And now I need an m minus 3. And if you notice, this leading term is negative. So if I took out a negative 2, I would get an m minus 3, which is exactly what we need. Remember, we're not factoring by grouping properly if we don't end up with these two being exactly the same. So now my two factors are 5m minus 2 times m minus 3. Now let's try this one right here. Take this first term and multiply it by this constant, keeping in mind that that's a negative 4. So what two numbers multiply to a negative 24 and then add to that negative 5? I would say that's negative 8 and a positive 3. Okay? Now, if you're getting frustrated with yourself about not coming up with the factors, just give yourself time, guys. You have to work through it and you'll get better and better at it. You just have to keep practicing. Okay? So this now becomes 6y squared, and then I get negative 8y, and then I get a plus 3y. So this is minus 8y plus 3y minus 4. Okay? I don't use these numbers again. Now I factor by grouping. So here I'm going to take out a 2y and I get 3y minus 4. And what do you notice? Do you see that that's a 3y minus 4 as well? If I don't have to take anything out, I can just factor out a 1. So that's 3y minus 4. So I have 2y plus 1 times 3y minus 4. And then I'm done. Let's try this one right here, and then we'll do a couple more. So we multiply 12 times negative 5, and we get a negative 60. And they have to add up to a positive 11. Okay, so let's think about this. How about 15 and negative 4? Okay, so again, these two middle terms turn into these. Now, it doesn't matter which one goes first, so don't worry about it. So I'm going to do 12c squared plus 15c minus 4c minus 5. Okay? So take out a greatest common factor here. I'd say that's 3c. So I get 4c plus 5. Now I want to get a 4c plus 5, so I just have to take out a negative 1. And I get a 4c plus 5. So I end up with a 3c minus 1 times 4c plus 5. And then we're done. Hopefully that gives you guys some examples of how to do this. If you would like some more examples, please let me know. Do you want to try to do a couple of these? I think I'm going to just leave it at that. So remember, whenever you're factoring, the first thing you have to do is first take out the greatest common factor, then use one of your factoring methods to do that, to do anything else. All right, so hopefully this helps you guys. Please make sure you finish your factoring tests and your factoring units. I hope you guys have a great day.